Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest today. We have from Cambridge. We just had another guest from Cambridge. This must be Cambridge Day on the program. Yeah. Leslie Wheeler, and she's the author of Rattlesnake Hill. And there's your cover. Well, I think probably what I'll do is I'll take off this little, well, anyway, you get the idea. Yeah. Rattlesnake Hill, beautiful cover. Did you, you're self-published, right?
No, I'm not. I'm small press.
Aha, well, yeah. Okay. And then did you choose the cover or did they?
Well, it was a back and forth. I gave them some ideas. It turned out the ideas didn't work, and I'm in a writer's critique group, and they looked at the samples, and they said, no, those aren't right for your book. You need something much more active. It's more of a suspense, a thriller. And so I said, well, give me some ideas. And they said, a woman running through the woods, which is perfect because there are two important scenes set in the woods, including the climax.
A Berkshire Hilltown mystery. Yeah. Now, you live in Cambridge. What do you go to the Berkshires a lot?
Yes, I have a house in the Berkshires where I live full time before moving part time to Cambridge. So I am basically back and forth.
So you knew. Now, without giving away the ending, tell us about the story.
Okay. Well, it's a story of a woman, Catherine Stinson, who goes to the Berkshires to find out the identity of a woman in an old family photograph that has been passed down over the generations, and it's a nameless beauty. No one knows who she is, but an ancestor brought the photograph with him to California when he moved there abruptly. And there are all kinds of stories. You know, people wonder, well, who was she? Why did he never mention her name? She had to be somebody who was important to him in some way. Maybe she was somehow connected with his abrupt and kind of mysterious departure from this town in the Berkshires. So she goes there to find out about this woman. And because this all happened 100 years earlier, she can't exactly Google the story. She has to find people that will tell her the story. And storytelling is really important to the book. And
before she becomes a victim herself.
Yes, that's right.
Tricky business.
Yes.
This is the first of now it's going to be a series, right?
That's right.
How many are coming out after this, do you think?
Well, at least 3. I'm working on the sequel right now.
So she's wondering if it was her husband who did the murdering, right?
Whose husband?
Yeah. Was it Diana's husband?
Well, Diana is formerly occupied the house that she's renting.
Yeah.
And so she does wonder. Diana was also involved in a love triangle, as it turns out, as was the woman in the photograph. And Diana and the woman in the photograph, it turns out, was murdered under mysterious circumstances, and as was Diana. And so when she's trying to find out about this much earlier love triangle, she kind of gets involved in finding out about the more recent one, which happened 5 years earlier. Yeah.
What gave you the idea for this? This is great. What inspired you to this?
Well, I think it's a combination of my love of the town in the Berkshires, where I have a house, and my fascination with the town, which is it's a small town, it's very rural. It's not the Berkshires of Stockbridge and Lenox, which is what most of the tourists see. And I came to the Berkshires via I grew up and I was born and raised in suburban Southern California, believe it or not.
What brought you out this way?
Well, I think I have roots in the East. I have Mayflower ancestors, and there were other reasons why I was drawn to the east, but I just basically made this reverse migration from California. Most people go the other way to New England and via California and then New York City. So here I am. I'm living in this small town in a rural area, and it's a very different experience. It's kind of culture shock, and I'd never lived in a small town before, not only where everyone knew everyone else, so I was an outsider, but also where the same families had lived there for generations.
That's so true, though, in a lot of small towns, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was brought home to me when I went to a presentation on cemeteries in my town, of which there are 11.
By any chance, was that the Gravestone Girls? We've had them on numerous times.
No.
No, okay.
No. But anyway, the presenter said, you look at the people whose names are on the tombstones, and it's like the yellow pages of who is here now.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really amazing.
Definitely. Yeah.
And the story actually was a story that I was told when I was first living in this town, and it did not happen 100 years ago. It happened before I came to the Berkshires, but as it turned out, I knew some of the people involved. In fact, there were people that I saw on a regular basis because the father of the lover who is blinded in this triangle was plowed out my driveway. So I saw his blind son riding in the truck with him frequently. The relatives of the man who may have done the shooting killed the woman and blinded the lover, the husband, lived up the hill from me.
Wow.
So, and I decided, to sort of protect the innocent, or whatever, to put that triangle 100 years earlier. And because people living in this town and in other small towns, as you mentioned, are very connected to the past. They know the stories.
Yeah, or they've grown up here and everything. I have lived in the city, the country, suburbia. I've lived in many different and almost all of the New England states. It's difficult, I think, in yourself too.
Yeah.
Those of us who have maybe been around quite a bit and experienced, suddenly you're in a lovely town, but everybody seems to. Is the word parochial?
Well, sort of, yeah.
Very, and you're like, the idea of doing something new is not a cool thing. It has to be, this is the way it's been done. But it's charming though in a way, but it's also very tough if you're not from. I grew up in Wilbraham, up in Massachusetts. Now, that's not particularly what I'd call a small town. It was a kind of a medium small suburban town. Are you thinking of Brimfield? Is Brimfield in the Berkshires?
Well, it's I would say it's more central.
Because that's where I went to summer camp.
Okay.
Oh, way. If you go down Route 20, right? We were heading for my high school reunion, and I'm looking up, and I had forgotten what it was like down there.
Yeah.
And I began to feel very closed in.
Yeah.
All the mountains near Brimfield, you're heading down Route 20 to Wilbraham. Oh, I had totally forgotten. Palmer, the Mass Turnpike.
Yeah. Well, this is the Berkshires are there are two exits actually. It's exit 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And the one I take is 2. Yeah. And that takes.
This is a big thing from going from what town in California were you in?
Pasadena, which is north of Los Angeles.
And then to suddenly move out to the Berkshires.
Yeah. I came via New York City, so that was.
Oh, you see, you've done the same thing I've done.
Yeah.
I've lived in Worcester, right in the city.
Yeah.
Then I went to college way up in New Hampshire near the White Mountains.
Yeah.
Grew up in like a suburban, urban little town.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's good though because you get quite a rounded viewpoint of things, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm glad that my father. He was moving his way up in the company, and we had to be down near New York City. So we'd go down to Connecticut, so we would commute over the line. But it was interesting, and then we ended up at Cape Cod. He opened a business. I know what that's like. I absolutely love it. Now, How can people get a copy of Rattlesnake Hill?
Well, it is available at local bookstores.
Mhm.
You can also order it from just about any store. It is available through Ingram's, which is one of the major distributors. And,
Where are you going to be appearing, or where have you been appearing too?
Well, I did my launch at Porter Square Books in Cambridge.
Yeah.
And I just did an event, of sort of an author meet and greet at the New England Mobile Book Fair and in Newton. And I know they definitely have copies of the books, as I hope Porter Square still does too. And then this summer, I'm going to be doing a lot of events out in the Berkshires. I have something in June at the bookstore in Lenox. And then I'm doing, this is really, I think, going to be one of my most fun events. My launch was great. It was a great party. But I'm going to be doing a combined author hike, author talk followed by a hike at the New Marlborough Public Library. And
Not the Marlborough up here, but the New Marlborough.
this is New Marlborough.
Where is that?
Well, it
Berkshires?
is south and west of places that people are more familiar with, like Stockbridge and Lenox.
Okay, it's in the
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, it's right on the border, actually, with Connecticut.
Right.
It's this corner of the state where New York and Connecticut and Massachusetts meet. And in fact, the largest town, it takes me about 20 minutes to get to Great Barrington. But I'm 15 minutes away from Canaan, Connecticut.
How about Charlton? Charlton would be a great place for you to
Well,
speak
it's
to.
a possibility.
Have you been to we got to get you this way. Tatnut Booksellers in Westboro is extremely popular. You would love it. Another one, too, you would enjoy is every July there is the New England Authors Expo in Danversport.
Okay.
Beautiful. It's like a ballroom. It's in the country club overlooking the yacht. Authors, tons of them in a big ballroom, all different genres. I've attended numerous times. We've had many authors on here who were on. You would enjoy it. It's
Okay,
absolutely
I'll have to look into
gorgeous.
that one.
But get your site. I always tell authors, I know where you're focusing because of your story.
Yeah.
But people who come to these events, like myself, are you grew up near the Berkshires, and they can appreciate it. So it's not always just where you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now coming up, you will be. What's your next closest one coming up?
Well, it will be the one in Lenox.
Okay, in Lenox.
Yeah.
Do you have the date? Do you know when?
Yeah, June 8th
June
at the
8th.
bookstore in
At
Lenox.
What's
Yeah.
it called? The bookstore?
It's called now it's called, used to be just called the bookstore, now it's called the Bookstore and Lit Wine Bar.
Oh, okay. The lit
Yeah.
wine bar.
Yeah. So.
Did you know when you were a kid you were going to be an author, or did you major in English?
Well, I did major in English, and I wanted to be an author for a long time.
You did, yeah.
There was a brief period in elementary school when I wanted to be a ballerina, but
Oh, yeah.
I decided I wasn't coordinated enough. And I've always loved telling stories, listening to stories, making up stories. My parents tell me that I used to sing stories when I was riding in the car, and I was a dreamy kid, lying on my back, looking up at the sky and making up stories.
You said that you had written, I think, a couple other books.
Yes.
What were those?
Well, I call them my living history mysteries. Setting is very important to those books, as it is in Rattlesnake Hill. The first title was, they're not historical novels per se. I call them living history mysteries because they are set at historic sites that usually involve reenactors. And so the first book was Murder at Plymouth Plantation, and that is set at the Living History Museum in Plymouth.
Oh, wow.
So it's a murder that occurs among the first-person interpreters, the people who portray the pilgrims.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by that because...
It was a true story, right? Was it based on a true story?
No. The history in it is true,
Yeah.
but the story in the present
Why have
is
I not
fictional.
heard of this? Sounds like a great book. I don't.
Well, it was around a lot. I just was doing an event recently where somebody in the audience came up to me and said, "Oh, my book club had chosen Murder at Plymouth Plantation.
What was the other book?
Well, there are two other books in the series. The other one was Murder at Gettysburg, and that is set at a reenactment of the Gettysburg Battle, which happens every year in Gettysburg. And so it's really about Civil War reenactors, but the history of the battle is, of course, that's real, but the story is fictional. Same thing, the third book was Murder at Spouter's Point. There is no Spouter's Point because at that point, my publisher and Mystic Seaport, where it's really set, did not want me to use the Seaport's name. They didn't want to have even a fictional murder associated with their site.
Well, the tourists might take that the wrong way.
Yeah.
Are you into historical fiction?
I like historical fiction.
Because a lot of people, we've had many authors on who were strictly historical fiction. It took me a while to understand, to get into it, because I'm a big mystery, suspense, thriller type of thing. Love that type of thing. So it took me a while because it felt like it was a little bit more, not, the word isn't calming, just different, much more involved or intricate.
Yes.
That type of thing. And I tend to want to get Robert Parker, one of my favorite authors. People out there who know him, he passed away too young, but mystery, right?
Yeah.
But I loved his style. Yes, no, okay, let's go. And you just go, and you go right through the book.
Yeah.
They didn't have too many characters. This is terrific. Rattlesnake Hill. Leslie, how do people reach you?
Well, I have a website.
Okay.
It's www.lesliewheeler.com.
Wheeler.
That's right. And Leslie as opposed to EY.
Right. And if they wanted to book you, if somebody wants to, they can reach you there?
At my website.
They can do that.
And I have been getting requests there.
Very good. When are you going to take this part of the summer off, or are you going to be booking into fall?
I will be, taking the latter part of August and first part of September off to go to Europe. So
now you're part of a reading group, a writing group, right?
Yes, I am.
In Cambridge.
Yes, and I'm also very involved with Sisters in Crime. Are you familiar with that organization?
Yes, they're cool. Yeah,
yes,
good. Yeah. How big a group is that now? How many?
Our New England chapter is the second largest with over 200 members, and there are 50 chapters in all. And I serve as Speakers Bureau Coordinator for Sisters in Crime, which means I'm arranging events for them. And
now, do they meet in Cambridge?
We have meetings, mostly in the Boston area, not necessarily in Cambridge.
What about out here if somebody wanted to come on up there? Would this be a far jaunt from the Worcester area to come up there? Or is there one group around here?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of our events, we try to include all the New England states. Like last weekend we had this event called Murder by the Minute, and took place in different locations.
Sure.
We had organizers in different states that would
Murder by the Minute. I love that. Is so cool.
Yeah, it was basically members you go to the venue and you read like 3 to 5 minutes from your either work in progress or your recent book.
Do you ever go to libraries? Do this quite a bit. They'll have like a 3-star one. They'll have 3 different authors.
Yeah, I do a lot of panels. I was just in Northborough last week.
Hopedale is right up the street, very known for that. Milford does it. We had an FBI guy, and he had written 1 or 2 books, and we met him up at the Milford Library. He couldn't give us any personal information, but his book was amazing. He was on here. We met him up there. I'm not sure if I'd rather go just see one author at a time or the 3. I mean, I'm open to both.
Yeah.
I love it when it's one author, though, who's featured. Do you like that better? Or do you?
Well, I like the give and take of a panel. The Northborough panel that I did last week was fun because it was. I was with 2 friends of mine, and we sort of play off each other. And
that's a beautiful library, Northborough.
Yes,
they've got a beautiful big room there. I mean, I've gone to events there a lot. They had redone that a number of years back. The whole library was like, not the elderly part with what it was in the 1800s, but they added, they did something to the outside part. They've got some nice quiet places up there too.
Yeah.
And so does Upton downstairs. I think a lot of people don't realize that we have it looks small, but we have the quiet room, I think a gathering room. Also, don't forget downstairs at the Upton Library, Rattlesnake Hill. She's going to have this exhibited on
That's
our
right.
author's wall. She could pick up a copy. When is the next one coming out?
Well, as soon as I finish.
Well, we'll give us
Yeah.
like a year, maybe?
I hope within the year.
How long did it take for you to write this one?
Well, I'm sort of embarrassed to say it took me many years
That's okay.
because it went through a lot of changes. It started out as a sequel to my first mystery murder at Plymouth Plantation. It was going to be called Murder in New Nottingham, which is the fictional town in the book that's based on New Marlborough. And at a certain point in the book, I came to this scene and I could just see it, scrolling through in my head, and it involves a moment where the main character, a woman, Catherine Stinson, is supposed to kiss this man in a kitchen of a house that she's renting, and she just refused to do it. You know how characters really do
Sure.
take on a life of their own.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't do it. And I thought, well, wait a minute, something is wrong here. And maybe what she's telling me is that this is not her story.
Right.
And so I had to go back and find the character whose story it was. And that took a long time. And then I had to give her a backstory and give her a different voice than Miranda's, who is my other heroine.
I love the way you started it. What do you think? Brandy Rousseau asked as they wrapped up the tour of the house on Rattlesnake Hill.
Mhm.
It's nice, but Catherine didn't want to sound too eager, lest the realtor jack up the rent. Also, the house seemed almost too good to be true. There must be a catch somewhere. You've got a good style. You really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, a very good style. Now, what's going to be the title of the next one?
It's called Shuntole Road.
Shuntole Road.
Shun, yeah, Shuntole.
Shuntole. Another mystery, kind of tied into this one, or just in that town area?
It's going to be tied with the same main character, and it's it'll have some of the same characters, including obviously the main character.
Yeah.
But I'm introducing some new characters and that are going to be very important to the plot. Yeah.
This is great. Now, how many will there be? 3 in the
Well, definitely 3. Beyond that, I don't know yet.
Beyond that, we don't know yet. Now, if you leave this particular one, let's say you make 3, and you say, well, I want to go into something else, what would you do next?
Well, I have actually some, I think perhaps every author does, some
Things up your sleeve.
some things up my sleeve, drafts of other possible series.
We're talking with Linda Wheeler, and she is she's an author, of Rattlesnake Hill, a Berkshire Hilltown mystery. And Leslie.
Yeah.
Leslie is in Cambridge, but you came from California. When did you come over to this way? What year did you come out here to the Berkshires?
Let's see. I first moved to the Berkshires it's a while ago,
Yeah.
1975.
Oh, so you got your feet more than wet. You know.
Yeah.
This lady walked in and she has the most adorable socks on. I mean, they're spots. They're like adorable. There's nothing like a beautiful outfit, and then suddenly there's this really cool thing added into it. I always notice people's socks. And you have friends who know that you like that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
that's my one fashion statement is my patterned socks.
Fun socks. Do you wear them at your presentations too?
Yes, I do. I'll be at a library and someone in the audience will be looking at me and say, "Are those moose on your socks or bears?" And I said, "Oh yeah."
Oh, definitely. That's a great. Are you in Barnes and Noble yet? Did I ask you that if you were right?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, you think it's over there in
Yeah.
Barnes and Noble. That sounds good, but I know you would love Catnip. Oh my God. You go right in there immediately. There's a stand with a poster on it. This is exactly who's coming up, the picture, the book,
Mhm.
and then there's a beautiful room in the back. I've given presentations there.
Ah.
I really love that.
Mhm.
So one more time, how can people get a hold of your book, Leslie?
They can get it at their local bookstores. If they don't have it, you can always order it.
You can always order it. That sounds
And it's, of course, available on Amazon.
You're going to let us know about the next one, right?
I certainly will.
We're going to get you back on. I mean, if you're already with the appetite on Rattlesnake Hill, don't leave us hanging for the next one. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time with my guest.